Ratio and proportion. Ratio is very, very similar to a fraction. It has a top number and a bottom number. It is comparing numbers. Let's say amounts or numbers. Okay, and on ratios are going to look like a fraction. You're going to do your mathematical operations like a fraction. The two things that are different, and it tells you about this on that front page of that handout, the two differences between fractions and ratios are, if you get a ratio of 5 to 3, you are not going to change this to a mixed fraction. Don't change ratios to mixed fractions. Also, if you happen to come up with a ratio of 12 to 1, do not change it to a whole number. Leave a ratio as a fraction. Ratios can also be written a different way. This says 5 to 3, or it could be written 5 to 3. And it's the way you read it is 5 to 3 or 5 to 3. Okay? But when you use it in a mathematical equation, you're going to follow the rules of fractions. So it's not a whole lot different. Okay, so the handout that I gave you right now just has some practice. It has the answer sheets. This came out of the GED book. Okay, so it just has some questions and answers are in the back, on the back page. And now we're going to talk about proportions. Now, proportions are powerful. The definition of a proportion is one fraction equal to one fraction. If there's any extra stuff, it is not a proportion. Now you're going to use proportions a lot, and they help make a lot of your mathematical life easier. Here's an example. 3 to 5 equals 6 to 10. This is an example of a proportion because it has one fraction equal to one fraction, nothing extra. Now, the cool thing about proportions, you guys agree that this is true, right? Because I took this times 2 and this times 2. Okay, those fractions are equal to each other, right? Now, if this is a true proportion, which this is, then this will always be true. If we multiply on a slant, we multiply across, then that's 30, right?
Right.
If we multiply across the other way, 3 times 10 equals 30. This is proof that you have a true proportion. So, on one of your worksheets, they're going to say, here are two fractions equal to each other. Tell me if it's a proportion or not. And so maybe they give you the example here. Okay, how do you know?
Because they don't have the same.
Because this times this is 9. You are correct, Irene. This times this is 12. Those are not equal, so this is not a proportion. Okay? So are you guys okay with that? Let's look at the first one. This packet you don't have yet. So it says, write whether each pair of ratios forms a proportion. 7/6 and 52/48. Okay, you guys decide if that's a proportion or not.
Which one?
Yes. Oh, you don't have it.
Oh, I don't have it.
It's another one. Let me get it for you.
Not a proportion.
6. So what did y'all find out?
It's not.
Okay, I heard Isabel, but not very well. What'd you say?
It's not a proportion.
Not a proportion, she says. Okay, let's check that out. When I took 7 times 48, I got 336.
Yeah.
When I take 6 times 52, 312. They're not equal to each other, right?
No.
So this is not a proportion. Now, what if they don't give you the fractions, but they give you a graph? And they want to know if it's a proportion. So for a graph to be a proportion, it must be 2 things. It must be a straight line must pass through, the origin. Which is 0, 0. In order for a graph to be a proportion, it has to be a straight line, and that straight line has to pass through the origin. So here's a straight line. Does this represent a proportion? It does not. Why?
The negative and the,
You're overthinking it.
yeah.
It is a straight line. Where's the origin?
In the middle?
Right here. Does it pass through there?
No.
Then it's not a proportion. Easy enough. Okay, it has to pass through the origin, and it has to be a straight line. Is this a proportion?
Yes.
That's correct. It is not. It goes through the origin, of course, But it has to be both. It has to be a straight line and go through the origin. It is not a proportion. Do this one.
Ooh.
This is a proportion. It's a straight, if you use your imagination, it's a straight line and it goes through the origin. So it is a proportion, okay? That's how you tell if a graph is a proportion. Let me look at your worksheets. I think I may want to stop there, but let me make sure that you have all the information you need. Tomorrow, we're going to solve proportions. Oh, I see one more that I want to talk to you about. Okay, as soon as I tell you this last thing, you will be able to work the first 4 pages. You can look at the 5th one, but I'm not covering that right now. What if they give you a table, X and Y? Okay, they give you a table and they say, okay, so tell me if this is a proportion. Does this represent a proportion? So what you're going to do is you're going to treat each one of these like a fraction or a ratio, each one, and every one of them you're going to simplify as far down as you can. They all must simplify to the same number. Okay? So of course, 1/4 is as far as it's going to go. 2/8. 2/8 simplifies. I can divide by 2, or you do it in your calculator. This will come out to 1/4. Divide by 2. No, 3, sorry. And divide by 3. 1/4. And when you simplify here, you'll get 1/4. When you simplify here, you'll get 1/4. When you simplify each one of them and you get the same fraction, it is a proportion. It's okay? Okay, look at this one then. Actually going to show you one that is not. Okay. You're going to look at these, X over Y. This is a fraction, a fraction. Use your calculator or do it by hand, but I want you to simplify every fraction.
Is that a 1435?
14/35. Is this a fraction or a proportion, or is it not a proportion?
Not.
I heard One more time, I think you're correct.
It's not,
Okay, how did you figure that, Isabel?
because I do the fractions, I do the 8/24, and it doesn't equal to the same as the first one.
Okay, that's actually 8/21, but it's the same one that is causing the problem, and you are correct.
Okay.
This is not a proportion. This one is simplified as far as it goes. This one, when I divide by
So
7,
it's 14/2.
2/5. This one is 8/21. And Irene or Isabel used it as 8/24. It gave us the same result. But 8/21 will not simplify, so it's 8/21. And again, we have 2/5. So it does not matter that all of the others simplify. Every one of them has to simplify to make it a proportion. And since this doesn't simplify to the same as the rest, it is not a proportion. Are we good?
Yep,
What do y'all think online? You will
I'm
have
good.
Good. You will have 2 worksheets coming. It'll be 2, let's see, are they packets? Hang on. Oh yeah, the first one that I'm sending to you is actually a copy out of the GED book. And I'm calling it packet 0 because it's kind of an intro and it has some information on top of some practice. Okay. And then
Okay.
I'm going to send you packet number 1 that has to do with these proportions where you have to decide on the graph, you have to decide on a T-chart, okay? You're gonna have to decide what things are proportions and what are not. And those are the ones I'm gonna send you right now. Now in the second packet, which is packet 1, packet 1, you can do like the first 4 pages. Now it's fine if you want to go on, if you understand, but I haven't introduced everything to go on with page 5 of packet 1. Okay, any questions?
Oh, man.
Are we okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good, Luannie. Sherry,
Yes, I'm fine.
Brittany,
Yes, I'm good.
okay. And I will send those immediately when I get finished here. Isabel?
I'm okay.
Okay, okay, and Sherry, I don't know if you're busy or not. Are you okay for now?
Yes, I'm fine. Did you hear me?
Now I hear you say, did you hear me?
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay. Okay, then, my sweethearts, I will see you tomorrow and bring any questions.
Okay.
We'll do that at the first, and tomorrow we're going to continue. I'll explain to you about unit rate and comparing. So the unit rate will be a great tool for you to use. Some of you use it already, you just don't know you do. Okay, see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Okay.